But what's going on in Washington now, there's a story here out of InformedAmerican.com. We're still talking about further COVID-19 relief. Trump pushes, quote, skinny bill again to help the unemployed. Will Democrats reject it again? This is another story you put up, Rodney, and basically kind of the state of where we are right now. We know that the Democrats passed that massive relief package in May. Republicans came back to the table about 2 months later with a lowball offer, if you want to call it that, or at least lower than what the Democrats passed, and they could not come up with an agreement. And the president passed signed his executive orders, and we all wait, and the Congress has been in recess. Now, there's this post office stuff, which is, of all things, to get the Democrats back. Maybe we can touch on that before we get out of here. But ostensibly, the Democrats or Nancy Pelosi called the Democrats back to pass immediate postal relief. And then Republicans are here saying, well, since you're coming to town, we're not going to worry about that, but maybe we could do something about the unemployed in our country, maybe? Can we do that? So where are we here, Ronnie, in the state of the negotiations and what we can potentially see in the next coming days or the next day?
Well, like you said, the Democrats passed a $3.5 trillion bill in the House in May. And so they took an early stab at it, and give them credit for it, right? They did this a long time ago. The Republicans waited until the week that benefits were expiring to pass something much smaller in the Senate. And whether it's negotiating or whatever they did it, right? They waited till the last minute. And so they created some of this mess. And so clearly they're far apart. Now, the Democrats have said, look, we'll come back to the negotiating table as soon as the Republicans agree to spend at least $2 trillion. That doesn't mean it's going to be $2 trillion. They want them to start there as a floor. I don't know that that's going to work. But to your point, now what we have is almost a month has passed since the Republican bill passed the Senate. Nothing's gotten done. And the president has said, hey, when the Democrats come back to vote on this, essentially forgiving a loan made to the post office by the CARES Act on Saturday, include this skinny bill. It's not do it instead of the post office. It's included in that same vote so that you pass $1 trillion measure that, gets the federal unemployment bonus check back in people's hands, that sort of thing. And there's no sign yet that that's going to happen. But, it's tomorrow. It could happen. Should it happen? Well, everybody gets to decide. Should, when these two sides can't agree on something, pass the small piece that both sides agree on? The Democrats would say, well, that's just giving in because we're not getting this bigger thing. The Republicans would say, well, wait a second. This is what we all agree we want. Let's do this. In this instance, what you have is millions of unemployed Americans not knowing if they can make their rent or pay for food. Now, they say that when they pass both sides say that when they pass something, it's going to be retroactive to August 1st. That doesn't change the calendar. You still have to pay rent on September 1. And so you're still missing all these different markers. And by the way, you can't buy food retroactively. Right. And so it's a very difficult situation for people who were counting on that money.
Yeah, and of course, that money doesn't go out instantaneously either.
Right. Takes several weeks.
Exactly. So
because it doesn't go out through the federal government. It has to go out through the state programs and blah, 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 blah. It gets complicated in the paperwork, but it does take several weeks to get out.
Agree. And for my point, I agree on the skinny bill. That's basically that's been my position for a bit, is just pass what you can, guys. I mean, what the heck with this got to do $3 trillion? Just, if it means, $500 billion here for targeted things that you agree with, and then work out the details later. Love to know what you all think about what's going on here with the negotiations.